Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Season Keepers, the show where the only two people we recommend keeping for the season is us. My name's Matt, aka Clean Sheet Wipeout.
My name's James, aka SK James FPL.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, pretty good.
Good man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. This break's felt pretty long, but
It
I'm
really
looking
has.
forward to eventually getting the game. This Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, God, yeah. And obviously we actually managed to meet up at the weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We
Which is
went for
nice.
a pie,
Yeah,
pie caramba. If you're anywhere near the south coast,
highly
they've got
recommend
one
it.
in Southampton, Brighton, Winchester. Great little place.
Oh God, yeah, the pies are so
Really
good.
tasty.
Yeah,
Yeah, really
definitely.
tasty pies.
Yeah, it's just nice
Um,
to catch up because obviously you're not often back down south. Obviously, living in Manchester now, so it was good to see you.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Mm.
still here for a couple of days,
Oh
and
God,
then
yeah.
I'll be going back up north.
Long old journey. And obviously we had a bit of Sky chat, over a pie and a beer. But we thought, you know what, we'll sit down and we'll record our overhaul podcast and get it out to you guys. Hopefully, enough time for you to listen pre-deadline, which is this Saturday because we have the Burnley Watford fixture, which should make an interesting one.
Yep. Obviously, I guess it's good in a way because it allows us to cover that game before then moving on to the players we actually want to own.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's
Uh,
the decision, isn't it? Like uh, with with the suspension, obviously, with that knobhead that I don't even want to name him. He's pissed me off so much in FPL. Dennis, there you go. But had he not been suspended, I think the template would have been everybody owned him. Whereas now that he is out, people have a decision to make, and at the moment, Pope seems to be the common theme. But with the likes of Veghorst obviously now signing for Burnley, potentially becomes a bit of a differential option, and we still might see some people skip it. So I'm actually quite excited by this overhaul for once.
yeah, I think there's a lot of angles you can approach it from. You can skip it entirely. You can go Burnley. You can go Watford. Obviously, you can stay. Some people are talking about just holding Pope through.
Mm.
Obviously, other people talking about moving people on.
Yep.
Um, Obviously, you're more likely to move on maybe an outfield player than you are a goalkeeper. But Weghorst could be worth a punt because if it goes wrong, you probably were going to ship him out anyway. So you'd get that coverage. But if he does go off, you're already there.
Yeah.
So
No, agreed. Definitely.
definitely
Because
one to consider.
yeah, well, that's the thing. And with Pope's price, he kind of allows you to have the downgrade because Pope's obviously priced at I think it is 6 point. Where is he? I've got him in my team. What am I doing? Pope is priced at 6.9 million. Um, Ramsdale and Sarr are both cheaper and arguable better goalkeepers kind of this season in particular. So when Wolves and Arsenal's fixtures come around again, there might be the point in which you go for a Pope now to make gains. Obviously, go with the captaincy of this fixture, try and get some of those fixtures where Burnley are kind of trying to recoup what they've lost because I think they're one of the teams that have to pick up 5 fixtures. There might then come a point and quite an easy jump off to maybe hop on an Arsenal player, particularly when maybe they double or a Wolves asset. And because of Pope's price, I think he allows that. It's not as restrictive as say a Veghorst could be, in which if you're looking at the downgrade, you might have to look at a Brozier, for instance, from Veghorst to cover a Saints captaincy, whereas Pope for me feels like the better option going into this game solely because you can then have that coverage and there's possibilities kind of either just above or just below his price point.
That's a good shout. And yeah, there's no reason why you may end up just holding him all the way through. Obviously, the amount of extra games, it's like you get a 2-for-1 in terms of like an extra chance of getting a clean
Yeah,
sheet. Essentially, so some weeks probably,
no, exactly. That's
um,
the thing.
and at the very least, maybe some save tiers, appearance points, obviously. Um, yeah, so in my stronger team, I'm currently on Pope, and in Team One, I'm currently on King. But I'll
Okay.
probably change that if I'm honest, because I think without Dennis, I don't know. You can look at it in two ways. Without Dennis, it will all go through King, but maybe he'll be weaker without Dennis. It's hard to it's hard to predict really.
Yeah,
But
possibly. I think
would
you're
you
one of
go
the
for any other
first.
Watford players?
No, I think
No,
you're one of the
yeah,
first people to mention Watford, to be honest, because I think we've all been burned by them, obviously, in that Norwich fixture.
yeah. I felt like obviously Team One's the lower ranked team, and I thought maybe that would be the punty thing to do to go King while everyone's sat on these Burnley like goalkeepers or
Yeah,
defenders or whatever. Obviously, then that would be a good way to climb.
no, agreed. Yeah, completely agree. Because at the end of the day, it feels like there's a little bit of a template forming for these overhaul squads. But then when I'm obviously in a couple of group chats, and there are still three or four players that kind of feel different across most squads. And
Okay.
I think that could make things quite interesting post overhaul. So moving on in the pod, I think that the best place for us to start is to probably look at these fixtures because we've had fixture announcements for February and March now. So it gives us a good chance to sit down and run through the single game days that we've got to cover and potential captaincies. And if we can get the gist of those, I think it will probably start to at least form a little bit of a template of where we want to go and then potentially open up some prospects of points in which we make transfers. And if you want to go for a player now, or if you want to bring someone in to cover those fixtures. So, looking at it, I think obviously the first fixture that we've got in the big decisions we've just discussed is Saturday the 5th. We're both going Pope, aren't we? In our main teams.
Most likely, yeah. I may go Veghorst and then move Veghorst onto what's his name, Edouard, ahead of their strong fixtures. So Palace have
Okay.
got Norwich after those first two.
Edward's an interesting shout.
Similar price as well.
Mm,
So I
yeah,
think
definitely.
Veghorst in this game is 7.8, maybe, off the top of my
Um,
head.
let me just
Or I
double.
could be making that up.
I'll double check for you.
Yeah,
Veghorst
but
is 7.6.
oh, okay. And Edouard is 7.7. So
Mm,
providing you've got like that little bit in the bank, then that's a move I could be doing and
yeah,
definitely one I'm thinking about
yeah,
because then I
agreed.
can
And
have whichever keeper I want and then just move their course on and then not have move on to Edouard who looks exciting and then I guess that gives me the freedom to not have Gallagher if I don't want him. I'll still have that Palace coverage.
yeah, that's true. And
Um,
for me, I'm
yeah,
just having looked at the ownership stats, which we'll come on to later in the pod. That's the reason that Gallagher is sitting on my team at the moment because I feel like so many people are going to have him. And even though my rank isn't where I want it to be, I've got a reasonable transfer account. So as much as I'd like to maybe take a few punts at Overhaul to try and chase, I know I'm not going to win the thing because I'm too far behind. But I'd like to maybe win some mini leagues. So I don't want to blow that chance early by taking too many punts at Overhaul. So what I've tried to do is be as balanced as I can and cover the fixtures. Maybe go with the masses to start with, and then obviously when Chelsea come back for their good run of fixtures post the Club World Cup, and we get these additional doubles, and they'll inevitably bring single game days with them. I'll then have the transfer account to really attack those fixtures, but I don't particularly want to go crazy too early. If you get the gist.
yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think it's sort of a sensible strategy really because he'll do more damage to you than you think. So it's yeah, I've currently got Gallagher in both teams.
Yeah,
Just
same.
because I really rate him, and I don't think
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
anyone better at his price.
No, I completely agree. He should have scored against Liverpool as well. Like he played very
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
and
so cheap.
we've seen how well he's done this season. And when we've needed him, he's really come up with the points. I recall that 22 point haul against Everton. I mean, given the fact that he's only 7.3 million, that's incredible numbers. So
Yeah,
his value is exceptional in this game.
I think he's very much similar to sort of Rafinha, how he can sort of hit pretty much any kind of tier, tackle tier, passing tier, shot tier.
Yeah.
Um, I think he's a very reliable player to have in this game.
Yeah, I think Vieira has kind of brought out the best of him this season, that's for sure. So then looking ahead, obviously we've got the Tuesday, the 8th of February. There's a few games in there. This is where the decision for me comes. Are you going with a Man United asset or are you not? Because I think if you're not going with United, who play Burnley on the Tuesday, we're obviously going to start with a West Ham. And I think a lot of people are going to start with Jared Bowen, which gives the coverage for that day.
Yeah, but I guess chances are you got to think about as well is the Man United Brighton game on the 15th of February.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a player, you should definitely have a Brighton player.
Yeah.
So I think it would be quite reasonable to have Bowen for that captaincy day, and then say a Webster or a Dunk for the other day.
Yeah, and
Uh,
this is where I'm in two minds because at the moment I've got Webster. So my back four at the moment in my draft is Cancelo, Webster, Trent, and Laporte. So I've got the Webster coverage there. But up top I've got Salah and Ronaldo. Now I have been toing and froing between having Ronaldo and having Kane. And there is a point later down the line in which I think Ronaldo plays on the Saturday and then Kane plays on the Sunday, so it's a good point in which to jump off. But I just don't know if I want to start with him because one, I can't guarantee if he's going to start all these games because we've seen the rotation and we've seen he's started to pick up niggles. I know that Harry Kane is going to start every game that he's fit for Tottenham, but at the same time, it's having the option here for the Tuesday. If I see that Jared Bowen suddenly isn't in that West Ham Watford squad, I've got no coverage other than Nick Pope against Man United. Whereas if I do go with the Ronaldo, at least I've got a fallback just in case. And I'd much rather obviously captain a Ronaldo against Burnley than a Pope against United, even though United haven't exactly, thrown up trees and whatnot. I still think there's something in there where they can score 3 or 4 in a game, and Ronaldo probably should be involved.
yeah, that's a fair point. I'm currently without Ronaldo in both teams, and I've actually got Bruno in my better team
Okay.
because I was very impressed with the last couple of games pre-overhaul from Bruno, and I feel like maybe that could be a good way of me making some ground because I feel like we could potentially see more of that,
Yeah.
and I think he's got more kind of reliability in terms of he could fall back on things, maybe like a tackle tier or just I don't know. I just feel a bit more confident in him than I do Ronaldo, which I wouldn't have said a few weeks ago, but
No, that's true. I
I'm
mean,
saying now.
yeah, we saw pre-international break how well Bruno did in that run of 2 or 3 games. And obviously Ronaldo missed out one through injury, did nothing in the other game, whereas Bruno was the one to really pick up the points. And yeah, that could make quite a difference because you're in a good position, I think, with your best team. So maybe having that differential there gives you the opportunity to really hit that top 100. Whereas for me, I think that's maybe slightly out of the equation in my position. So I don't know whether I'm going to be too risk averse maybe to start with. It's a decision I've got to make, but yeah, I think Bruno could be a good shout because I can't see him being that heavily owned, and yeah, you could be onto one there.
I hope so.
Um, Obviously the 10th of February there is the first Liverpool game. Now
Mm.
Salah's at least going to be playing in the third or fourth place kind of medal game. Likelihood they Egypt will probably get to the final, which means I don't think he'll be due back in the UK till the Monday. Um, so the
I heard it
question,
was the sun. I heard it was the Sunday.
okay, so the question would be, does Klopp give him a bit of time? Because if he does, do you have another Liverpool or Leicester player in your squad to cover that, just in case Salah isn't in the team?
I've got Trent in both teams,
Yeah, that's
so
exactly the same here.
I'd be okay. As it stands, I've got Salah obviously in both teams as well.
I think you have to. I think it's too
Yeah,
big a risk not to. And obviously his price point means you either have to hold a lot of money in the bank or use 2 or 3 transfers to get back there, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And you obviously 100% want him for that Burnley away fixture anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't want
God,
to
yeah.
find yourself in a position where you've not started with him in an overhaul and you think, oh, maybe I'll just ride it out and see how he goes, and then you could quite easily get spanked.
Yeah.
So
Well, I got burned pre-overhaul by the fact that I had sold Salah before that Chelsea game, and obviously we saw that he picked up plenty of points there, and he was still heavily captained. So yeah, I have no intention of ever not having Salah in my team again between now and the end of the season, unless he gets injured. He's going to be there, and he's there till the end.
yeah, an injury would make it interesting for our everyone's overhaul squad. Like it would just open up a lot of possibilities up front. There'd be funds to spend.
Yeah, can
But
you imagine the madness? But we're obviously not really good. Say he gets injured in that third or fourth place game or the final, and we've all started with him. Suddenly we've all got, big decisions to make, and it's another transfer. But we're not going to know before that. So I think, yeah, you have to start him, and
yeah,
just hope for the best now that we've got him in our teams, because it's a transfer that I don't think any of us are banking on having to make.
no,
So the next single game day then is obviously that Man United Brighton fixture, and I think that's where the decision's coming in for this overhaul squad as to whether you do go United or whether you cover it off with a Brighton asset. And for me, I think Adam Webster or Lewis Dunk are very good options, because passing tier wise, they're usually starting on 5 points, aren't they? So for a captaincy, you're looking at hopefully a minimum, 10 points. Could be 8, say they concede a couple, but even then, I'd take an 8-pointer captaincy against Man United.
yeah. I mean, I guess it does depend how much of the ball they have at Old Trafford.
Mm,
So there is a possibility they might not hit passing tier, but they do tend to be quite reliable.
yeah,
With that passing tier, and if they do obviously play a good game, then there's no reason why they may not even get a clean sheet.
no,
Like
no,
it
exactly.
could happen.
Yeah, definitely. And Brighton are a very good team. Like, I think they do often underperform, but having watched them numerous times on Sky and whatnot, and seen them live a few times, obviously at St Mary's, they're a really good team to watch. They're so organised, and I think that's partly why they've become, particularly defensively, they've become key assets in Sky. And I'm glad that United are playing Brighton, for instance, because it means that there is the option there. If you don't want to go for United early on, a lot of us will go Brighton, and you're comfortable enough to do so. It doesn't feel like too much of a risk.
Agreed.
So yeah, moving on then, we've obviously got quite a lot of games on Saturday the 19th. There's big decisions there. Sunday the 20th, however, there's 2 games. It's Leeds Man United and Wolves Leicester. Now, if I don't go Man United, the only coverage I'm going to have in that game at the moment will be Rafinha, because I don't have Wolves or Leicester in my current draft.
Yeah, same for me, and I think one of my teams doesn't have any any of those players. So obviously, I will have to
Yeah, you'll have to
think
you'll have to
think about
rethink that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is why we do these things.
Definitely. The,
Yeah, it's tricky.
it's
I'm
it would
not
be
even
a
sure
case
who
of
I'd
whether.
want from those teams if I wasn't going Man United.
Well, that's the thing. If you're not going Man United, I think it's Rafinha from Leeds. And I think Rafinha is going to be very popular again. And again, at the end, we'll look at the ownership stats from FF Stuff
Yeah,
site. But
I should have scrolled up. My keeper is Sarr in that
oh,
team,
well, I
so
was just
I'd be
about to.
okay.
I was just about to say, if you're not gonna go for any of those, Sarr could be a good alternative here, because Burnley obviously play Brighton on the 19th, which is then, if you don't start with him, it's a good hop off point to then jump on to Sarr on the Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, very true.
And you're not losing a fixture then, and then suddenly you've got coverage against Leicester, and we've seen how good Wolves are defensively. They've been exceptional this season. And I wouldn't be surprised if they kept a clean sheet against Leicester.
No, neither would I.
And then the big one, James, Friday the 25th of February, Southampton against Norwich, Friday night television.
Yeah, we're a right pain in the ass. We tend to have a lot of single game days.
Yeah.
hopefully this isn't another kind of Sargent show.
I'll be gutted if it is, because I'll be obviously
Yeah, well,
travelling to Southampton on the Friday night for the game, and
yeah.
the last thing I need to see is a 2-0 Norwich win with Sargent on the double.
So, are your thoughts to bring in, say, a Saints player, or are you thinking skip?
I'm starting with Prowsey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm reluctant to bank a transfer this early on. I understand it if you go maybe for a Weghorst, for instance, to start with, because you could then jump off of him after Burnley's early fixtures and then go to the Saints Norwich, and maybe a Broha, or if you've got the money, jump to a Prowsey. But there's no fixture gain there because Saints are on the Friday night. See, it's the first game. In their first game, they play on the first game day a lot after Overhaul. So there isn't really a point in which we jump onto a Saints asset without losing a fixture for another, which is one of the reasons why I think I'm going to start with Prowsey. And I'll come on to it later in the March fixtures. But I think there's maybe then a good option once Chelsea are back and running to then jump from, say, a James Ward-Prowse, if you've got the money, to a Chelsea defender. And that's one kind of thing that I've been looking at. And that there are plenty of other options, but for me, that might be the point in which I lose Prowsey.
Yeah, that's a decent strategy. I was just looking at what I could potentially do transfers rise. You could, it sounds like madness, but you could hop off of Jarrett Bowen after they play Newcastle ahead of their game against Wolves, and then they've got Liverpool after that. So those are quite two relatively tough games where you could then obviously get Prowsey in for the
So,
Norwich game.
so are you saying jump off of
Yeah, Jarrett Bowen
Jarrod Bowen and West Ham Newcastle? What would you then be doing on
after West Ham Newcastle
for
on
Prowsey?
for Prowsey ahead of the Friday the 25th.
What would you then do for Sunday the 27th of February, in which it's a single game
Oh
day with
shit!
West
Yeah,
Ham and
yeah. Never
Wolves?
mind. Ignore me. It's a stupid idea.
See, this is why you got to look ahead,
That's what obviously. Well, Bowen's just sort of nailed in both my
I
teams.
think Bowen at the moment, and once again, excuse the pun, is a season keeper for me.
Yeah, that's a good. That's it. That's a fair shout. Yeah, I'd have to look elsewhere then. I'd have to remove someone else, be it Webster maybe, but I like Webster. They got
It's
Villa at
tough.
home,
And
Newcastle away. You don't really want to miss that.
no, and it may well be if you don't start with one and you haven't, say, started with a Weghorst, then it's skippable, because who knows what Saints Norwich is going to be like.
Yeah, true.
Defensively, we often concede goals, don't we? And I think someone like Salisu has excelled recently for Saints, but even then, I'd be reluctant to bring someone like him in because we could concede to Norwich.
Yeah, yeah. I guess there's no real I'm not other than Prowsey, and then there's no guarantee that he's going to get anything.
No, no. So I think Prowsey, for the guarantee of minutes, is the reason that he's in my team. I have seen people mentioning Brozier, and I think he could be a really good option. But what would you do suddenly if he's on the bench? Because we've seen rotation, and yeah, Brozier is in great form. He looked exceptional against City. He scored, obviously, which was just offside. But there's no guarantee that come that Norwich game, kind of Hasenhüttl sees it as a chance to give Brozier a bit of a rest, and he'll start Adams and Armstrong up top. That there is no guarantee.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think
you'd be gutted.
Brozier's better for FPL. I think obviously you've got a bench.
Yeah.
Whereas Sky, you're very much kind of relying on your players to play, especially obviously for these captaincy days.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen rotation amongst our front three, front four, and yeah, it would just be Sky's luck that Brozier kind of is benched for that game and then comes on for a 10-minute cameo at the end and gets booked. It would sum Sky up. But that's the reason why I'm really reluctant to start with him. And I have seen people have got him, but I'm reluctant because I can't, in my mind, guarantee that he'll start. And I want, for at least this point in Overhaul, players that start week in, week out for their club.
Yeah, no, agreed. What I may do then is kind of wing it, and then if someone gets injured, I can bring in a Saints or Norwich player.
Yep. Yeah.
But other than that, I could just wing it. And
well, we've skipped fixtures in the past,
yeah.
Towards the end, the kind of close end of the previous overhaul, and we kind of benefited from that. I think obviously we both skipped the Watford game, thankfully, or in our main teams. I think I had Dennis in my B team, which was a bloody annoyance. But yeah, we've skipped that, and we also skipped was it the Brentford game that we skipped as well? That single game day. So
both of those kind of paid off. Yeah,
exactly. And there are definitely single game days which kind of trap you a little bit in Sky to thinking that you need an asset, but quite often saving that transfer is worth more. So we've touched on the fact that Sunday the 27th is another single, which everybody has to bear in mind. The West Ham Wolves game. I think Jared Bowen is going to be massively captained in that, so I think there's no point in discussing it much further. We then move on to Sunday the 6th of March. Obviously, the Saturday there's a lot of games. Sunday the 6th is probably going to be a City asset against Man United, unless I have seen plans and I have potentially in my mind to move from Nick Pope to Aaron Ramsdale, because obviously Pope plays on the 5th, Ramsdale plays on the 6th, so that is a hop-on opportunity for Ramsdale, and he's the top points per million player in the game. I think I watched the Hub stream the other day, and it's on Frank FF Stuff's website as well. Points per million, Aaron Ramsdale is top of that list, and I think he's one of the only ones in which his points per million is above 1.
Yeah, that's a good play to have.
Yeah, so I think City assets, Cancelo is probably likely to be highly captained that day, but I think chasing wise, this might be the point in which I start to be a little bit different. And if Aaron Ramsdale can bank a clean sheet with a couple of save points against Watford, I'm looking at maybe a 22-point return there. And if City then concede and Cancelo fails to hit passing tier, I've maybe gained 16 points. So it's these kind of fixtures that I might start to look to target post February.
Yeah, that's a good shout. And then obviously on my birthday, you have Spurs Everton.
Yeah, Monday the 7th.
Currently, no coverage for that in either team.
This is where the decision comes in of whether you start with a Harry Kane or a Son, or whether you start with Ronaldo, because if you've started with Ronaldo, you're very likely to be moving from Ronaldo to Kane on Monday the 7th of March.
Yeah, big time. Or like myself, I've actually got Jota in one of my teams.
Okay.
And well, Liverpool at the moment, I'm guessing there's going to be some games that get sort of kind of slotted in.
Yep,
but
definitely.
after their game against Norwich, they don't really have a game right through to that game against West Ham on the 5th.
There's a strong possibility that in that same week that they play Norwich, that the Liverpool Leeds game might get slotted in there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So as I say, obviously, if it doesn't, then that would be a great time to hop off of say Jota or Trent or whoever, and can get one of those Spurs players in.
Yeah.
Likely to be Spurs, unless Lampard's Everton are like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, Dele Alli, who knows? He might get reignited, and obviously a game against his old club. Who knows?
I was wondering when you were going to mention Dele Alli. That's the thing.
Good old Dele Alli. And then you got Van der Beek as well. Obviously, we've not seen him really play for United to know whether he's a good enough Sky asset.
I'd be staying well away from these kind of players.
Yeah, that'd be a risk. Yeah, but yeah, obviously Spurs. We know what Højbjerg can do. We know what Kane can do when he wants.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's very likely to be Harry Kane will be the most captained on that day, and there might be some with Son, for instance. But I'd be very surprised if there's many Everton ownership in the top 1K in particular.
Yeah, we'd have to see a lot from Lampard's Everton to sort of go there.
100%. And then obviously Saturday the 12th, there's a lot of fixtures again. I think Sunday the 13th is when I've pinpointed that I may well move from someone like James Ward-Prowse to a Chelsea defender, because that day they play Newcastle at home. So, providing you've kept some money in the bank, obviously Prowse is what, 8.6, Rudiger's 9. So if you've got zero point 0.4, I think Prowse to Rudiger could be quite a popular move that day, providing you've
Yeah,
started with him. And this will be the point in which people really start to maybe pile back on Chelsea, because their fixture run from this point is lovely. And we're unlikely to be starting with them at Overhaul because, they've got 3 blanks and 4. After that, I think it might become like the Man City of last season, in which suddenly we've got 3 or 4 Chelsea assets in our teams because they might have a couple of singles, games to catch up on, and their fixtures are just too good to ignore. So
oh, it's
even
lovely. I'm just toggling through the pages now, and it's beautiful.
yeah, it really is.
I don't think there's a tough game in there.
No, no, that's the thing with Chelsea. It's game after game in which if if you've got them and there's not many other teams playing, they're probably the best captaincy option that day. And yeah, if you look at it, it's kind of what, Newcastle, Norwich, Brentford, Saints, Leeds, that kind of run of 5 games. And if you wanted to, you could punt and jump on them for the Burnley game before that. You've got 6 games there in which I think they struggle to concede a goal. Like you've potentially got at least 5 clean sheets in there, and in Sky, that's worth what, 10 points usually, particularly if it's someone that maybe doesn't quite get the limelight that I think he deserves, and it maybe depends on how they progress in the Champions League. But Thiago Silva, exactly the same price as James Ward-Prowse, 8.6 million. In I think we've spoken about him countless times on pods, haven't we? Of how good he is, how greedy he is with the passes. Like he's always way above Rudiger, but he's also got an eye for goal. And obviously he scored against Spurs, got past in tier. I think he came away with a 16-pointer. It was a brilliant run. The fact he's the same price as James Ward-Prowse, I think, is too hard to ignore, really.
No, that makes it a very good move. Don't even need to worry about money in the bank either.
No, no, definitely not. So yeah, I think it's just something to consider on that day. And then obviously on the 14th of March, we've got the Palace Man City single game day, which I think generally,
You're gonna have a City player.
yeah, most people it'll be Cancelo. I've seen drafts that people are doing where they've got 3 or 4 Man City to start with, and honestly, I don't blame them with the start that they've got, because I think it's a brilliant start to the City and kind of post overhaul for Man City. There's 3 or 4 games in which if you've got triple Man City defense, you could be looking easily at 30 points each time.
Yeah, big time.
And the reason that I've got Rafinha in my team is for this Friday, the 18th of March fixture, Wolves versus Leeds. I know Wolves are a tough team, and if you've got, say, a Jose Sarr like yourself, I think he could be a good option. But if Leeds have got players back fit, the likes of Bamford, who knows, he might return by then. I think that could really open them up, and Leeds could be the kind of team that give Wolves problems. And as we know, I've been burned by Rafinha. After that Rafinha to Mbeumo move way before Overhaul, that really fucked me over. So I don't intend to do that again, and that's why I think I'll start with him.
Fair play. What I may do is hop onto a Leeds asset in the team that doesn't have Sarr.
Yep.
Because they have quite good fixtures after that Wolves game.
Yeah, they
so
do.
they've got Saints, obviously great fixture. Watford away. You got Chelsea. Obviously, that's a bit tough, but those next 2 are sort of decent enough, and we know what Rafinha can do. I'm pretty sure he scored against quite a lot of the stronger teams in the game. So
Yep.
it's
He's
very good
just
pick.
he's very consistent. And then obviously at the moment we know the fixtures up to Sunday the 20th of March. So we've got the Spurs West Ham and Liverpool Man United game. And then after that we don't have confirmed game days. So I think this is the point in which I've kind of obviously stopped me planning. We were probably likely to get announcements hopefully early next week, but it all depends on the results of the FA Cup games. and who kind of gets knocked out as to where the Premier League can slot certain clubs in. And if a few of the big boys get knocked out, we could see a lot of doubles get announced quite quickly.
Agreed.
So just before we kind of touch on maybe our drafts quickly and then jumping on to questions, I just wanted to have a quick look at the top 1K ownership, obviously courtesy of Frank FF Stuff's website for today, because I think it gives a good sign of where people are currently at. And on the Hub Pod the other day, they kind of had a look at this, and I can see now that Mo Salah, for instance, has risen kind of in percentage, and I think it gives a good indication of the fact that people are slowly picking up the Sky app again, and they're starting to properly sort their teams. But Salah at 55%, for instance, at the moment, you fully expect that to almost go all the way back up to mid-90s, come Saturday, the deadline. João Cancelo way and above at the moment, obviously 97%. Jared Bowen, Conor Gallagher, Trent, Laporte. Ronaldo's an interesting one at 50%. That's the issue for me there is, the sway between him and Kane. Kane's obviously about 32% on the graphic at the moment. It's quite clear that Nick Pope's popular because at the moment he's the most popular goalkeeper, 37%. Some are still swaying, obviously, with David De Gea, but again, that could be teams that haven't really chosen where they want to go. And no surprise to see the likes of Adam Webster and James Ward-Prowse on this list as well, because I think they're assets that we're likely to pick up this overhaul because they cover single game day fixtures.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Norgard as well, a cheap option on there at the bottom end of the graphic.
Yep.
Who's the first player on this list that you actually don't own? For me, like if you're going down the ownership chart.
For me, so it could be Ronaldo. At the moment, he's in my draft, but I did have Kane this morning and I switched. So Ronaldo's the first 50-50 decision. After that, obviously Rudiger, but I expect Rudiger is in teams that haven't, changed pre-overhaul yet. I can't imagine he'll be in this figure come Saturday. It will probably be Ruben Diaz, and that's because I've gone for Cancelo and Laporte over Diaz. But I can see why Diaz is in there because I've seen a lot of triple ups.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It would be be Ronaldo for me in both teams that I don't have. Obviously Bruno's not even on this graphic, so that does show it should hopefully be the punt. I think it is.
Yeah, he's 100% going to be a punt. I can't see many people going with Bruno at all in this format. So I think you could potentially be onto something there, and if he goes big, like I said, it could give you a real shout at really making up some ground on that top 100.
I hope so. One thing I do find interesting in this graphic is the disparity between Jared Bowen and Antonio.
Yeah.
So 87% owned is Bowen and 16% is Antonio.
Yep.
Obviously, you can understand that based on Bowen's been the man recently and Antonio hasn't really. Who knows? Maybe that might even drop further for Antonio when people look at their teams.
Yeah, I don't think people will be going for the West Ham double up moving forward, and I think given current form and the fact he's also a reasonably priced midfielder, I think Jared Bowen becomes the go-to West Ham asset now.
Yeah, agreed. Obviously, would make Antonio quite a interesting differential to have if he was to say start banging them in.
Yep.
But yeah, it's all about finding those nuggets, I guess. Who's going to be the differential in the future? Obviously, we don't know. But
no, and there are so many game days to go, which is why I think I'm quite keen to maybe start quite tentatively, keep the transfers back still that I've banked, and then when we start to get these big blank weeks and the big doubles, and inevitably there's going to be quite a few single game days thrown in there as TV companies try to claw back the fixtures that they've missed out on. Like obviously we're missing, I think, the North London Derby, for instance, is a kind of Sky game and whatnot. They're going to want to put them on the screen when nobody else is playing and ensure that they get the viewing figures. So I think we're going to get a lot more single game days as we go into April, late April and early May. And for that reason, I think I want hold back because I think that's my only way of really making up ground. I think I'll struggle to make up ground early on, but there is the possibility as people run out of transfers that I could potentially go from there.
Yeah, agreed. I'm hoping the transfers are where we can make ground.
Agreed. So, do you want to quickly run through your current drafts before we get to the Twitter questions, then, mate?
Yeah, so I'll go through my stronger team. So it currently looks like this. It's a 4-3-3, Pope in goal, Trent, Cancelo, Webster, Laporte, Gallagher, Bowen, Bruno. That's Fernandez, not the Newcastle guy. And then Jota, Salah, and Edouard up front. Obviously,
that's
subject to change. I may do the Weghorst and then have a different keeper.
yeah,
I'm not
that's a
sure.
very differential strike force.
Yeah. I sort of just want to be a bit different. Obviously now I don't need Antonio in my team.
Yep.
I already had Jota and I want him. I mean, I guess I may have to sort of think about it with the arrival of Diaz, but I still think he should be fine for minutes.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right for now. Obviously, if they start to progress in the Champions League, you might see a bit of rotation, and there's always going to be risk there at the end of the day. But I think as an early starter, I think he could be quite a good option.
Yeah, and then my other team, the team that's sort of back at 786th, I've got a 5-3-2, Sarr in goal, Cancelo, Laporte, Webster, Trent, and Van Dijk as my back five. And then Gallagher, Bowen, Rodri is my midfield with Salah and King up top.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
I love the defense in that team because it's like you got Webster there, the cheapo, surrounded by the sort of the kingpins, the heavy hitters of 2 City defenders and then 2 Liverpool defenders.
Oh, yeah. I think we've got a question later on of someone saying yay or nay for the defense, and it is stacked. Like we'll come on to it shortly, but I was like, wow. So at the moment, my draft in my team one, which is the team that isn't doing as well, but it has more transfers. I've got Pope and goal. I'm going Cancelo, Webster, Trent, and Laporte at the moment. Gallagher, Bowen, Rafinha, and Prowsey, and then Salah, and then it's either Ronaldo or Kane. I think that's the one slot I'm undecided, but I think 10 out of the 11, unless we get any injury news between now and Saturday, which I think is unlikely, I think 10 out of the 11 there are locked for me now.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good team. I like the sound of it.
Yeah, I've just tried to make sure I can cover the singles that we know about. I didn't want to go out of this overhaul knowing that I have to make transfers for single game days, because then I've got a decision of whether it's worth doing the move or whether it's worth skipping. And I just didn't want the stress, to be honest.
Do you think there's a possibility some of these single game days could get other games added to them? Obviously, there's games that are due to be scheduled in.
I don't think with the fixtures that we've currently got, that's a possibility. Like the Friday night game, for instance, with Saints. I think that'll be the only Friday night game.
Yeah, I don't think it's common for there to be 2 games on a Friday.
No. I think with the singles that we've got and the games in which there's maybe 2 games, but at the moment we've got like 1 asset from them, I think, yeah, that they're likely to stay. And I wouldn't be surprised to then see these kind of double fixtures and stuff come to play late March, early April. But that's that team. And then my team 2, which is doing better, but it does have significantly less transfers. I'm going De Gea in goal. Cancelo, Van Dijk, Laporte, and Webster. Bowen, Gallagher, and Rafinha. And then it's Salah, Kane, and Weghorst up top, with a view to then obviously go Weghorst if I want to a Saints asset on that Friday night, most likely. But I fancied a bit of a punt, and also like if I'm going to go United defensively, I thought De Gea is probably the one to go to.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, that's not too bad either.
And that team's definitely not set. This is a team that I kind of pieced together quickly for team 2 earlier today, just looking to maybe try and be a little bit punty. I don't know whether it's worth it or whether I should take the same approach is what I've done in Team 1. Try and bank the fact that I've made the coverages early on and then take some risks later, because with it having less transfers, I perhaps shouldn't be banking on other transfers immediately.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
So if we want to go to the Twitter questions then, James, we've had a few in, and there's some interesting topics in here. First things first, from Tim Barry, can I just shock you? This is the one that I was talking about his big at the back, shall we say. So he's got Alisson in goal, Cancelo, Laporte, Van Dijk, Walker, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Yay or nay?
Yay for most of it.
Yeah, I think it's a great shout.
Yeah, I quite like it. Maybe I'll change Walker to Robbo. I don't think you said Robbo.
No, I suppose he's maybe gone Walker because of his price, because Walker's only 9 million. And given his
And Robbo's 10, yeah.
and given his Champions League suspension, it's probably likely that Walker at least plays the first few games for City before the inevitable Pep roulette comes into play. But I think, yeah, if you want to really attack it, I think that could be a great start. It's not something I'd want to do because there's a lot of money tied up there. And obviously going triple up on anybody at this stage, I think is tough. But you're going triple up with probably 3 players on each team that not only I think are likely to be regular starters, but defensively we all know what points are worth. And if both of those teams keep clean sheets that week, you've got minimum 60 points at the back there straight away.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's no 2 better teams I'd rather triple up on.
No.
And yeah, I've been thinking about it myself. I've gone pretty heavy in one of my teams with my defense, and yeah, you could even go heavier.
Yeah. I think
fair play.
I've seen teams take the risk, and yeah, I think it's potentially worth it. And if you have the balls to go that way, then good luck. I'll go for a slightly non-Sky question then from Steve Bird. We wouldn't expect anything less. Would you prefer a picture of VVD signed by Mane or a picture of Mane signed by VVD?
That is a weird question. A picture of Van Dijk signed by Mane.
See, I'd go the other way. I'd quite like a picture of Mane doing one of his little celebration poses signed by VVD. The next question is from FPL Glasto. So are any of the new signings worth a look?
Maybe Weghorst. Obviously Dele Alli is one to monitor. I'd say obviously don't jump in there, but obviously they've got that single game day, and who knows how he's going to perform under Lampard. He might have a new kind of lease of life. So definitely going to be one I'm looking at. Other than that, obviously you've got Dan Burn at Newcastle, but I don't know if I'd be jumping into that. Obviously Newcastle may become a better team.
Yeah.
May start keeping clean sheets. They've got Trippier there now. Obviously Trippier, you can sort of count him as a new signing as well. May get a few assists, pinging balls in. I mean, he might, maybe if he's on corners. I don't know who's on corners for Newcastle, but if they can feed Dan Burn, obviously he's a big threat in the box.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you've mentioned obviously Weghorst is probably the one that people are likely to go to immediately if they want to take that punt with a view to moving on to like a Prowsey or a Brozier. But I think all of the others are very much a wait and see for me in terms of Sky in particular, because not only are you hopeful of the fact that they have minutes, it's the risk of how well they settle into the team, isn't it?
We don't know if they're going to be hitting tiers and all that kind of thing. So it's just good to sit back and have a look.
Exactly. We've got a question in from Kippy, Pete Cawley. I know he's a very regular listener, so welcome, mate. I think we've already kind of answered it anyway, but as Saints fans, what do you think of Brozier over JWP? So I've said that in my opinion, I think it's potentially too big of a risk, but I can see the upside.
Yeah, it's a risk in terms of obviously this game you don't have a bench, so you could be sort of left stranded without a captaincy. However, obviously he's a very good player, and I feel like he's more likely to return than James Ward-Prowse. He's obviously way more likely to score, and obviously he's been playing very well.
Yep.
Very, very good player. I rate highly. I hope we can buy him. It's a punt that I think maybe you could do if you have the transfers to rectify it if it goes wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Mitch is kind of coming along the lines again of what we've already spoken about. He mentions about, do you start with a Southampton player, Prowse, or do you bring one in on that Friday with no fixture gain? I guess it depends on how many transfers you've got left to start with. If you're about average, I think I'd probably start with one unless you're planning to skip. But if you've got more than average and there's a player that you don't particularly want from that run of fixtures onwards, then yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't go a Weghorst to a Saints player in that instance. Because are you really wanting to hold a Burnley striker moving forward? Probably not. Are you more likely to get the points from, say, a Brozier or a Prowse? I think so.
Yeah, and I think the advantage if you were to not start with him would be you can kind of see how his form is just before that game.
Yeah.
So he may be, he might be on fire, might be a great player. He may have gone off the boil. Maybe there's another Saints player that's playing well. Maybe
Yep.
Che Adams is starting every game and keeps scoring.
Exactly. Or suddenly we're
You'll
hitting
have
95 passes at the back and Salisu's
yeah,
kind
you'll
of
have
man of
more
the match.
you have more information, and there's obviously always a chance that between now and that fixture, he could get injured or
Yeah,
suspended. So it
100%.
is there is a little bit of value in waiting because then you can make the most informed decision around that time. Obviously, you can also look at the team as well, know who starts.
Yep.
Maybe Norwich put out a really weakened team, and then you'll jump onto that game day. Maybe Norwich have been strong recently, then you can avoid it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if anybody that's listening on the audio and you can kind of hear crunching in the background as we finish the pod, it's because my dog is now eating his dinner and he's quite loud.
Bless him.
Yeah. So I think that just about covers it off then, James. Obviously, we've done fixtures, we've done our teams, we've done the questions. It's just about doing those final little tinkers. I'd probably look to try and set your team over the next couple of days, because the last thing you want to be doing is panicking on Saturday prior to that deadline. Nothing is really likely to change between now and then. We're not really going to get any press conferences other than that Burnley-Watford fixture, unless there's big news about a training ground injury. I think, yeah, for me, like I've said, I'm probably set 10 out of 11 players, and I think as people start to pick up the app and the website, I think most people should probably be set thereabouts Thursday come Friday. See, I know that I think Planet FPL are releasing some content towards the end of the week, and the Hub Boys are doing a stream on Thursday. So, see, no doubt they'll have some brilliant insights, and it's definitely worth listening to. But I think come Friday night, I'd want to be locked in. I don't want to be tinkering Saturday morning.
No, agreed.
All right then. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate, and it's a slightly longer one, but I think it was worth it given it's the Overhaul Special. And I just want to end by saying good luck to everybody. So, as always, it is a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Cheers, guys.